and welcome to the Indie Pop Girl, the podcast where you'll find music chat, new releases, hidden gems, and nostalgic deep dives. I am back with another episode, and today I am wrapping up my current Throwback Friday series with a big one. I've been teasing this over on my YouTube shorts during the week, and finally, we are here. I will be discussing Ultraviolence by Lana Del Rey from 2014. I think this episode is going to be a long one, so I hope you're ready. Ultraviolence by Lana Del Rey was released on the 13th of June 2014 and is her third studio album. Lana collaborated with Dan Auerbach from the Black Keys and was a departure sonically from her major label debut, Born to Die. The record also featured additional production from Paul Epworth, Greg Kurstin, Rick Knowles, Lee Foster, Daniel Heath and Blake Stranathan. Ultraviolence features a more guitar-driven sound with hints of psychedelia, rock and dream pop. Lana's vocals roar at times, often drenched in reverb, and the glossy production and visuals of Born to Die is completely stripped away. When I started to plan the content for my podcast, the Throwback series was something that came to mind immediately, and I knew that I wanted to discuss Lana, but trying to settle on one album was very difficult. The concept behind my Throwback series is for me to discuss albums that weren't well received upon release, achieved cult status, or ones that have just been completely forgotten. Ultraviolence was very successful for Lana and did end up on several critics' end-of-year lists in 2014. But not all critics got Ultraviolence and did receive some mixed reception. The score from Anthony Fantano back in the day became infamous, and the album became controversial, with some accusing Lana that she was glamorising domestic abuse. Now, Ultraviolence might not seem like an obvious pick. It sold well and topped the charts, but this era was not an easy ride for Lana. This was a bold, confrontational album that split opinion. Some critics weren't sure whether to praise its cinematic bleakness or question its message. Over time, though, Ultraviolence has taken on a cult status, a defining moment in Lana's evolution that still doesn't get the spotlight it deserves. Ultraviolence is one of my favourite Lana records, and it does claim the top spot depending on my mood, but it definitely has claimed its place in the top 3 Lana albums for me, and it is one of my favourite albums of all time. I can't believe that Ultraviolence was released 11 years ago, and it might not feel that long, as Lana has been very prolific in regards to releasing albums, and I knew that I wanted to talk about this record, and with Ultraviolence recently turning 11 years old, it just seems like the perfect opportunity to talk about it. If you are a Lana stan, I hope you'll enjoy this episode, and if you have not heard Ultraviolence before or are curious, then you are in the right place. I will be showing a lot of love for this, but before I start to discuss the tracks, I always like to provide some context. I will always remember the first time that I heard video games. I was working in an office at the time, and we had BBC Six music on as me and my friend Abby was fond of Lauren Laverne's mid-morning show back then, and that is when I discovered Lana. Video Games was a song that absolutely floored me. It's so haunting and beautiful and so unique. I was so excited for Born to Die to be released, and it felt like a lifetime waiting for the album, but it was so worth it. I think we all had Born to Die on repeat back in the day, and then we got spoiled with the Paradise EP and the Tropico film. And I just admired Lana's artistry and creativity. She not only slayed with her songwriting, but her visuals are equally as striking. I remember when she dropped the Ride video, and hearing that monologue was just so incredibly moving. I still get emotional when I watch that video and hearing Lana speak those powerful words. And it just takes me back to a happy time in my life. I listened to Ultraviolence when it first came out in 2014, but truthfully, I was going through a rough time personally back then. I wasn't taking in much new music, and although I appreciated the album, it didn't quite land for me the way it has in recent years. It wasn't until Norman fucking Rockwell and the quiet of the pandemic that I really rediscovered Lana and maybe discovered her properly for the first time. I went back through her whole discography with new ears and an open heart, and suddenly everything clicked. The emotional depth, the contradictions, the way her work blurs beauty and sadness, it all spoke to me in a way it hadn't before. That's when Ultraviolence truly hit me. It's raw, bold, unsettling at times, and also weirdly comforting. Since then, Lana's music has been a constant companion. This album in particular feels like a turning point, both for her as an artist and for me as a listener. I think that is why I picked Lana to close out this throwback series, as Ultraviolence feels like a pivotal record in shaping my music taste as an adult. It made space for nuance, for discomfort, vulnerability. It taught me that sometimes the most powerful albums are the ones that don't offer neat resolutions. That's why I picked Ultraviolence, a record that slipped through the net for me back in the day, but now feels like a homecoming. A cult classic, a turning point, and a personal milestone. So let's get into it. As I have mentioned in previous episodes, I will not be playing clips of the songs, so if you are curious, then please support the artists I cover by streaming, downloading, or buying physical copies. Thank you. I also want to give out a disclaimer before I start discussing the tracks. If you have not heard this record or aware of the themes, I just want to put out a trigger warning, as the content that I'm going to talk about covers a lot of adult themes and some of the material may be distressing or triggering for listeners. Please take care while listening and feel free to skip if the themes may be distressing to you. Thank you. For this episode, I'll be focusing on the standard edition of Ultraviolence, so we won't be diving into the bonus tracks, just the core 11 songs that made up the original release. Track 1, Cruel World. Cruel World kicks off the album with a slow-burning psychedelic haze, a nearly 7-minute breakup anthem that feels like a cleansing ritual. Lana's vocals are raw and unfiltered here, almost wailing at times, as she delivers one of her most biting opening lines. Shared my body and my mind with you. That's all over now. Lana's powerful delivery with the vocals. You can feel her pain and grief. She's quite mellow in tone during the verses, and then puts the knife in during the pre-chorus with the "and I'm so happy now that you're gone" line. That shows to her man that Lana is moving on and started the healing process. Lana repeats this again later on in the song, but confirms this time, I'm so happy now you're gone. If you're approaching this song for the first time, you could have the argument that the lyrics are slightly repetitive in nature for such a long song to open the record. But trust Lana, she knows what she is doing here. I think some of the repetition in the lyrics are a metaphor for this toxic relationship, kind of like going round in circles. Lana does switch up some of the lines, but I think the repetition stands for Lana going round in circles for this man who sounds like he is just toxic as fuck. The relationship is going round in circles and Lana is just getting nowhere. Hence the "you're dancing circles around me" line. The chaotic nature of the chorus, I think, symbolises the relationship breaking down. And eventually, when we reach the end of the song, Lana sounds vocally exhausted. Like she has had enough of this shit and she is walking away for good. You can imagine Lana singing this in a dark, smoky room, wearing her little red party dress that she mentions, with messy big hair, long nails, smudged eyeliner, and red lipstick. The production by Dan Auerbach is drenched in reverb and distortion, full of sunburnt guitars and a kind of faded Americana glamour that sounds both massive and decayed. The drums feel like a druggy haze, like walking through deep water, and it just feels like a psychedelic trip. There's something ritualistic about the way the song builds and loops. It's like she's purging someone toxic from her life, but still relishing the madness of it all. It's messy, bold, and unapologetically long. The perfect way to enter the chaotic world of Ultraviolence. Track 2, Ultraviolence. So when you think Cruel World was dark and fucked up, here comes the title track, and this is where the controversy started when the record was released in 2014. Lana references the 1962 song by the Crystals, He Hit Me and It Felt Like a Kiss, in the chorus. Just for some context, the song was written by Jerry Goffin and Carole King, and it was produced by Phil Spector back in 1962. The inspiration for the song came after the discovery of the Crystal singer Little Eva was being regularly beaten by her boyfriend. The shocking fact of this is when Little Eva was asked about this, she confirmed that the beatings she received was motivated by his love for her. As you can imagine, this song was very controversial, and many criticised the song back in the 60s for touching on the theme of spousal domestic abuse. And then with Lana referencing the harrowing theme into the title track in 2014, I think people were shocked that a mainstream artist was exploring this, and it was a stark reminder of the Crystals' chilling song. The term ultraviolence originates from Anthony Burgess's 1962 novel A Clockwork Orange, and it was popularised by Stanley Kubrick's 1971 film adaptation. Funny how the Crystal Song and A Clockwork Orange novel came out in the same year. In the book, ultraviolence is a slang term used by the protagonist Alex and his gang called the Droogs to describe acts of extreme, senseless violence. It's deliberately over the top and dystopian, evoking brutality with a stylized, almost theatrical tone, which makes it all the more disturbing. Lana's use of the word in her song and album title taps into that same tension. It's violence filtered through a glamorous cinematic lens. She turns it into something lush and haunting while still retaining its disturbing core. The line in the chorus, I can hear violins, violins. And I always thought to me that it sounds like I can hear violence, violence. A clever play on words, and Lana's delivery is chilling when she follows that up with, give me all of that ultraviolence. That line is intentionally provocative and open to interpretation. On the surface, it can sound like Lana is romanticising or even inviting the abuse, but I think it's more complicated and complex than that. Lana's art has always thrived in ambiguity, and this isn't a straightforward endorsement of abuse. Instead, she's tapping into the way toxic relationships can feel addictive, even when we know they're harmful. It's about that space where desire, control, and self destruction overlap. A space where women in pop music rarely get to explore so unapologetically. It's confronting, uncomfortable, and that's entirely the point of the title track. I think what makes a song even more uncomfortable and chilling is the fact that the instrumental is quite romantic and dreamy. It's not aggressive by any means, but when you hear the words sung by Lana, the juxtaposition is striking. If the instrumental was really aggressive, I don't think the song would have the same impact. The tragic lyrics are really the star of the show. There really isn't a resolution in this song. Lana just sits in the mess, and as the listener, can make this all the more uncomfortable. And I think that's the intention. In the bridge, Lana is pleading with her lover in the hope of moving elsewhere and starting a new life, also hoping that the abuse will end. Lana confirms that she will do anything and that she loves this man, despite the toxicity. Sadly, a lot of people in these abusive relationships stay in the fact that they will get better or it will never happen again, and just becomes a vicious circle, just going round and round. A bit like what Lana was describing in Cruel World, but here the song is very intentionally left open ended. And that is probably the most powerful aspect about the song, that it's left open to interpretation and for the listener to make up their own mind. Lana doesn't offer resolution in Ultraviolence. There's no redemption arc, no lesson learned or clear moral stance. Instead, she lingers on the emotional grey space where pain and passion are blurred, where destructive love can feel consuming, and where the narrator seems complicit in her own suffering. The ambiguity is no accident, it's just part of the artistic design. Lana often writes in a way that refuses to tie up things neatly. Rather than clearly condemning or glorifying the toxic relationship at the heart of the song, she embodies it. She performs the voice of someone so deep in the chaos that they can't see clearly anymore. It's unsettling because we're not told how to feel. There's no safe distance between the listener and the character she's portraying. In fact, that lack of resolution is the resolution. She's saying, this is what it feels like. This is how confusing it can be inside something destructive that masquerades as love. It's a kind of emotional realism that's rare in pop, and it's why Ultraviolence continues to spark debate. Track 3, Shades of Cool. Shades of Cool, with its James Bond-esque instrumental, it's one of the most cinematic tracks on the album, built around echo-drenched guitars and Lana's incredible vocal performance. Lyrically, the song explores loving someone who's emotionally unreachable, a man Lana describes as cold, detached, and unchangeable. The line, "But you are unfixable, I can't break through your world," captures the heartbreak of trying to reach someone who's permanently out of emotional reach. Lana knows that she can't fix him, can't make him better, and that "I can't do nothing about his strange weather" line is very telling. I interpret that line as the strange weather could be read as a metaphor for her lover's internal state. Mood swings could be the alcohol dependency, the drugs causing this, emotional detachment or depression. The shades of blue line is a hint there. I feel that Lana describing it as strange weather suggests unpredictability. It's like Lana is saying that she will never know what version of him she's going to get. To me, it gives that feeling of walking on eggshells. This could also hint at erratic or abusive behaviour. There is also a darker undertone that suggests something more volatile here. There could be emotional manipulation, coldness, shades of cool hint there, or even abuse. The idea that Lana can't fix him or do anything in this situation tells us that she is powerless against the storms he brings. When we get to the bridge, Lana's voice is drowned out by the explosive guitar solo, telling us that she is trying to do everything in her power, but her man is not hearing her clearly. It sounds like Lana's voice is drowning in the production, almost as if she's fading into the background or being swallowed by the relationship. The mix itself mirrors the emotional dynamic. Lana's character is crying out, offering observations, warnings, even care, but it's all drowned out. The guitar dominates, just like the lover's emotional weather, unpredictable, overpowering, takes up all the space in the relationship. Her voice losing prominence in the production feels symbolic of her being ignored, overshadowed, or emotionally tuned out. And That last line in the bridge, "You're crumbling sadly," is heartbreaking. It's as if she sees him breaking down, wants to help, is still trying, but she knows it's futile. And the fact that we can barely hear her by then makes it feel even more tragic. At its core, Shades of Cool is about the pain of loving someone you can't save. It's quiet devastation wrapped in elegance, and it perfectly captures the emotional tone of Ultraviolence. Beautiful and aching and just out of reach. Track 4, Brooklyn Baby. This is the moment in the record where the darkness lifts a little, and this song is nostalgic in its lyrical content as Lana touches on the New York hipster subculture in a witty, sarcastic take. It's a sharp contrast to the heavier moments on the record with the three previous tracks, as this is quite bright and bouncy with the jangly guitar melody. Lana wrote this song with Lou Reed in mind, and the day she flew to New York to meet and work with him, Lana found out that he had died. Lana references Lou Reed in the chorus, which is a nice touch, and it's like a little tribute to him. You can definitely feel his presence on the track. You can imagine his voice accompanying Lana, so he is there in spirit. I just have to mention the production on this track, especially the pre chorus on the "I Say" and "I'm Free" lines. Lana sounds so angelic and heavenly, drenched in reverb, just total chills. And I love how carefree Lana is with her vocal delivery. She sings, "I get high on hydroponic weed," and you can sense that in this song. It has this dreamy, slightly woozy, psychedelic feel. Brooklyn Baby is perfectly placed in the track list to give the listener a break from the dark tones. The trippy vibe of this sets up the next track perfectly. Track 5, West Coast. So this is my favourite from the record and one of my all-time favourite Lana songs. I am not sure how many times I have played this track over the years, but it seems to get better and better. If you are a fan of Lana, then you know the magic that she creates with Rick Knowles. They are a songwriting team match made in heaven, and I hope they collaborate again in the future because this song is proof of their magic. The tempo change from the verses to the much more slowed down chorus is genius. It shouldn't work, but it does work. The surf rock production and instrumental works in harmony with the psychedelic, almost dream pop like chorus. Lana's breathy vocal performance is stunning here. Her descriptive lyrics in the chorus with the tempo slowed right down take centre stage. It is so sexy and sensual, and I have seen people online compare this song to sex. It has this dreamy, euphoric quality to it, like a summer romance. And the title of the song just lives up to the name. You can picture the beach, hot and humid, dripping with lust and desire. West Coast isn't just a love song, it's about craving intensity and being drawn to something that's equal parts dangerous and irresistible. Just like sex, it's emotional and physical, seductive and strange, and it doesn't follow the rules. It's such a unique song in Lana's discography. West Coast is well loved within the Lana fandom, and it's clear why. I just adore the rhythm, the structure, and the atmosphere of the song. And listening to this on a late night drive just hits differently. Track 6, Sad Girl. We get to the halfway point in the record, and here Lana is portrayed as the other woman in an affair. Lana tells us that she is a bad bitch on the side, but being the other woman isn't all that, and the situation is making her feel depressed, hence being a sad girl. I love how she describes her man in the chorus that he's got the fire and he walks with it, which makes me think of David Lynch's Twin Peaks Fire Walk With Me film. That is one fucked up film if you haven't seen it. And I've always thought that Lana's music fits in with that David Lynch vibe, and this record is no exception. Lana flips this later on in the bridge, singing, I'm on fire, which could mean that Lana is saying, although I am the other woman, the Bonnie on the side, don't fuck with me, and I love that. Lana is aware of the unhealthy relationship dynamic, and then it's not going to last, but she's bringing the fierce here. The song definitely leans with a tension between empowerment and submission. I love the Spanish flamenco guitar in the production. It is a nice change from the electric guitar that we've heard elsewhere in the record, which is quite aggressive in places, but this sounds so nice and it just flows really well within the track. Track 7, Pretty When You Cry. The most staggering aspect about Pretty When You Cry is that Lana and her band recorded this in one take, and Lana freestyled her lyrics, which I find incredible. I love that they kept it raw and slightly demo like in the production. You can hear Lana's voice breaking, and it is so refreshing that it isn't perfect, a bit rough around the edges, and it just adds to the overall impact of this record. I don't think this track would work in the same way if it was cleaned up and more flavour was added into the production. This song doesn't need it. This is all about Lana's vulnerable vocal performance. Her vocals are fragile, unpolished, and at times almost off key, but this is deliberate. She's not trying to sound perfect, she's trying to sound real. And when I listen to this, I imagine Lana standing on a stage with a spotlight on her. Probably the same performance I described on Cruel World earlier. The fact that Lana switches up the title of the song to I'm Pretty When I Cry opens up a really powerful interpretation. This switch up is quietly heartbreaking, and Lana sounds like she is heartbroken. There's a sadness in the idea that even in her most vulnerable state, she's still thinking about how she appears, as if she's been conditioned to believe that vulnerability is only acceptable if it looks graceful or aesthetically pleasing. The fact that her lover is more interested in drugs and chooses this over Lana. In verse 2, Lana sings, all those special times I spent with you, my love, they don't mean shit compared to all your drugs. It's just so sad. I think this song is a continuation from Shades of Cool, and I think the guitar breakdown with Lana's falsetto almost breaking as she repeats the chorus is like the relationship is completely broken down at that point. The drugs, the abuse, the chaos, being the other woman is represented by the song's emotional climax. I could be completely off track here, but I'm just giving you my interpretation. And the beauty of this record is that it's still open to interpretation and debate. The strength of these songs and the fact that you can still peel away the layers years later just speaks volumes about Lana's role as a songwriter. Track 8, Money, Power, Glory. I would say that this track is underrated, and this has some of my favourite production on the entire record. Lana's vocals are controlled in the verses, but as it builds to the chorus, she just explodes. I love her vocal performance. She is like, fuck it. The line, hallelujah, I want to take you for all that you got. Hallelujah, I'm going to take them for all that they got. Sounds like a prayer, but it's laced with revenge and disillusionment. It's Lana flipping the script after being used, manipulated, or discarded. She's no longer the one getting hurt. Now she's the one doing the taking. There's a sense that she's been pushed too far and she's done playing the martyr. The you in the first line feels personal, likely aimed at a lover who's drained her emotionally or used her for their own gain. But the them in the second line feels broader, more cynical, like a shot at the industry, the press, or even her fans. I just want to mention the Dope and Diamonds line in the bridge, accompanied by some great guitar work. I thought it was Blake or Dan, but in fact, the guitar work is by Greg Kurstin, which is amazing. I always thought that Lana meant at surface level, mixing decadence and destruction. Dope as a slang for drugs and diamonds to represent the wealth and glamour. Lana confirms that's all that I want, which might not necessarily mean that it brings happiness, but addiction and excess can be used as an emotional void. And Lana has touched on these themes before in Off to the Races and National Anthem. But listening to this song again in preparation for this episode, I was thinking about the dope reference. This could be a double meaning, but dope could also be a boast, as in, I'm dope, meaning cool, desirable, untouchable. In that reading, Lana could be saying she is both dope and diamond, intoxicating and valuable. It becomes a power statement. She knows her worth, even if others have tried to diminish her. It's ironic too because she says it so calmly and repeatedly, like a mantra. She's not asking for permission to want these things, she's claiming them. And with that screeching guitar behind Lana, it just comes across as so badass and empowering. I just want to mention the Greg Kurstin production here. It still sounds cohesive and blends in perfectly with the rest of the tracks. If you are listening and are a fan of Wolf Alice, Greg Kurstin has produced their new record. That is something that I am looking forward to. Track 9, Fucked My Way Up to the Top. So, this song is legendary in its own right. First, the title alone is iconic, and secondly, Lana wrote the song in response to an undisclosed female singer who was vocal about Lana's authenticity, then stole it and copied it. There have been all sorts of pieces written online about who the song is about. Some people claim that it is Lady Gaga, and some people think that it is Lorde. In 2013, Lorde gave an interview around the time pure heroin was blowing up, and she made a few comments that were interpreted as shade towards Lana. She said artists like Lana glamorise being sad, and she wasn't sure it was a healthy message for young girls. She later clarified that she respected Lana, but the comment did stir some backlash and tension in fan circles. The mimicking me's a fucking ball line could be a clue that it is Lorde, as Lady Gaga's sound and visuals are completely different from Lana, and Lorde's sound and aesthetic is likely to have been inspired by Lana. Whether or not it's directly about Lorde, the song is definitely a response to people in the media industry, other artists who question Lana's authenticity or reduce her to a persona. It's angry, sarcastic, and defiant. She's reclaiming a narrative that's often thrown at women in the industry and spitting it back with venom and swagger. Lana owns the line. This is my show. This is me. This is who I am as an artist. And if you have a problem with it, then move the fuck on. Track 10, Old Money. So we have reached the penultimate track, and it's a special one. Old Money is melodically based on What is a Youth from the 1968 version of Romeo and Juliet, and it works so beautifully here. People often say that this track has a classic Lana sound, and while I agree, there's something about Old Money that just makes it uniquely powerful. Maybe it's the melody or the atmosphere, but there's something so haunting and drenched in nostalgia which makes this song deeply moving. Lana's vivid lyrics, the soft piano line, the cinematic strings, and her longing vocal delivery all come together to reflect a yearning for a simpler, perhaps more innocent time. And something that's always stood out to me, this might be the only time that Lana speaks positively about her mother. She refers to her as her mother here, not as my father's wife, like in Wildfire from Blue Bannisters. That small shift says so much. The line that really hits me is, yet still inside, I felt alone. I connected so deeply to that in 2014, and even now it still brings up so many emotions. I wasn't sure I'd be able to get the words out for this part of the episode because this song just means so much to me. Even in its sadness, Old Money gives me a strange kind of comfort. It's like Lana is quietly saying, everything will be alright in the end. That's how it speaks to me. And that's why it'll always be one of my most cherished Lana songs. Track 11, The Other Woman. This track is a cover of the song that was made popular by Nina Simone, and what a way to end the record. I love how Lana has covered this and made it the last track on the standard edition, as it kind of ties all of the themes and emotions from the previous tracks. We go back to the narrative explored in Sad Girl, but here it's much darker and melancholic. The production and Lana's vocal effects sound like it's playing on an old gramophone record player. It's got that classic retro vibe that fits into the ultraviolence melancholia, and Lana's vocal delivery is just so powerful here. It is one of my favourite vocal performances from her. Verse 2 is just so heartbreaking. I know it's a cover, but Lana is channeling her inner Nina Simone. Lana sounds like she is grieving, but she has decided and accepted her fate. And the way she sings Alone right at the end of the song gets me teary eyed every single time. Sometimes cover versions don't always work or click for whatever reason, but Lana has this gift to make any cover version her own, and The Other Woman is the perfect closer to a perfect record. When Ultraviolence was released in June 2014, it marked a bold shift in Lana Del Rey's sound, trading the Baroque pop and hip hop leanings of Born to Die for a darker, more psychedelic rock and noir aesthetic, thanks in large part to producer Dan Auerbach of the Black Keys. Many critics praised the production and the album's cinematic scope. When I was preparing for this episode, I went back to refresh my memory of the critical reception, and Rolling Stone, The Guardian, and NME were positive, but there were some reviews that were not kind towards Lana. I mentioned earlier that Anthony Fantano gave Ultraviolence a scathing review and famously gave the record a 2 out of 10. He has recently revisited the record and altered his score slightly, but he still doesn't get Ultraviolence, and I don't think he ever will. Pitchfork were also critical, giving Ultraviolence a 5.5 out of 10, and they called it murky and emotionally inaccessible. I think they must have been listening to something else. Over time, Ultraviolence has undergone a critical reappraisal. Many now see it as one of Lana's boldest and influential records. It is often cited as a fan favourite, and I believe that it is Lana's most cohesive artistic statement, tied with Honeymoon and NFR. Billie Eilish, Taylor Swift, and Lorde have mentioned Lana as an influence, and the fearless, moody tone of Ultraviolence helped define a wave of darker, introspective pop in the years that followed. FKA Twigs and even Olivia Rodrigo have shifted towards bold vulnerability in their work. Olivia even references Pretty When You Cry in her song All American Bitch from the Guts album. Olivia switches up the line I'm pretty when I cry in her outro, but she has also expressed her admiration of Lana's music. Wolf Alice also took inspiration from Lana and Ultraviolence during the creation of their 2021 release, Blue Weekend. Ellie Rousel has talked about how Ultraviolence blended organic instruments with a pop sensibility and helped to shape Blue Weekend's sonic and emotional palette. It's a great testament to how Lana's moody, organic style continues to influence contemporary artists. And that brings us to the end of Ultraviolence and the final episode in this season of Throwback Friday. This album has stayed with me in such a profound way, and revisiting it like this has reminded me just how layered, challenging, and emotionally rich Lana's work can be. Thank you so much for joining me on this Throwback Friday journey, for listening, for connecting, and for letting me share the records that shape me. Don't worry, the throwbacks will be returning soon. They're having a bit of a break, and I'll be back soon with something new, another series that I'll be introducing. But until then, keep on listening to the albums that still surprise you. A little hint there. I also just want to thank everyone out there who has been listening so far. Honestly, I am so overwhelmed, and I just want to keep creating quality content because this means so much to me. Talking about the music I am passionate about and putting it out there has just been the most incredible feeling. I hope you can feel the love in these episodes, and I've got so much more content planned. But I just wanted to say thank you from the bottom of my heart. I am so grateful for the support. Thank you so much for tuning into this episode. Please follow me on Instagram and Threads at the Indie Pop Girl. If you've enjoyed this episode, I'd love it if you could follow, share, or leave a review, as it helps other music lovers to find the show. I've also created a public Spotify playlist and added some of my favourite tracks from the artists that I have already covered. And as the episodes grow, I'll be adding more. So if you are curious with any of the artists and albums that I've covered, please give it a listen, and who knows, you might find a new discovery. You can find me on Spotify at the Indie Pop Girl, and the playlist is called Favourite Tracks from Podcast Episodes. I'll be back very soon covering an artist who I'll be seeing live in Liverpool shortly, and I'll be introducing my new series, so stay tuned for more. Until then, I'm Rachel, the Indie Pop Girl. Thanks for listening, and I will see you next time.